I've been playing Terraria ever since I can remember. Skeletron was basically the final boss of the game. But now we reached Journey's End, which means the game has no more updates. And I really haven't had the chance to experience everything. So I decided it would be fun to spend 100 days in Terraria and see how far I could get. I went with a large world and was thinking about going in expert mode. Since I didn't think I was ready, I decided to go in classic mode. Maybe expert could be my next goal. And we just went with a random form of corruption. Right away on day 1 we get to collecting wood. Wood is going to be the single most important thing we're going to be using in this series, so it's going to be a good thing to gather as much as we can. While exploring the world I discovered a pyramid. It was completely covered in sand, so I had to mine a bit to try and get to it. Inside the pyramid I found a sandstorm in a bottle, an accessory that allows me to double jump. I used this extra mobility to explore the left side of my world where I found the jungle. A bat killed me, so that marks the start of my many embarrassing deaths in this world. At home, using the cactus I gathered from the desert next to our spawn, I made a cactus sword. It's gonna be a bit difficult to tell when they start and end, so I'm gonna have to just make an estimate. Day 2, I began work on a very small home. It's basically a shack that I'm gonna be adding or removing if I need to. I began exploring the right side of my world and died immediately. Turns out the crimson biome is right by our spawn. The same day I began work on an elevator to take us all the way down to hell. It's convenient to have one since you can get some pretty good loot early on. I made the shack look more cozy, and at night I added another room for the merchant to move in. The merchant moves in when you have 50 silver and he sells a piggy bank, one of the best things in the game since it's basically an extra inventory. Very useful to have early on and to make your exploration last longer. Day 3 I made a lead pickaxe and upgraded my copper tool. I headed back to the elevator. I died on my way down. Whoops. And used some bombs to mine some ores along the way. I found a cloud in a bottle, which basically grants me another jump. I'm making sure to take every chest I find with me, so I don't run into it again and open it. I died to a slime this day. That marks one desperate day, but that death was totally intentional, and now I get the chance to play the piggy bank from the merchant that just moved in. I discovered NPCs have a happiness now, a feature that I will completely ignore for the rest of the series. With tungsten and chain, I made a watch. This will basically help me keep track of time. According to the Terraria wiki, a day starts at 4:30, and it's also when night events end. So that is when I will count the start of a new day from now on. I continue exploring all the way until I reach one of the 2 beaches. They practically mark the end of the world, since from then on it's just ocean. I ignored the angler because I hate him and got to fishing. I don't really need him right now, since he doesn't really sell anything, he just sorta gives me quests. While fishing, I got a frog leg. It's an accessory that allows me to jump even higher. I also fished some crates that I wouldn't open yet until the start of hard mode, since there's a chance I could get hard mode loot from them. I continued fishing all the way to day 4. I began working on a house to have by the ocean, but I was interrupted by King Slime. You usually get a warning of slime raining from the sky, but I didn't really get that warning. I did my best and got more than half his health, but it all went downhill once I ran out of arrows. The triple jump helped, but I didn't have enough mobility to escape him and died. King Slime killing me here marked the start of a rivalry between me and him that will last the whole series. I decided to continue working on the elevator, but I missed a block on the way down and died. I was completely defeated. I got back to work on the elevator and found a mushroom biome. I got 2 health crystals that once used increased my max health until I reached 400. I teleported back home and decided to put my bombs to good use. You can't break Crimson until you have a pickaxe good enough to mine it. But using bombs you can skip this and get really good weapons early on. I broke 2 crimson hearts to get weapons. I got a gun and a butt that follows me around. Even though there were many crimson hearts and you get good loot out of them, I can only break 2. If I break another one, I'm gonna summon a boss that I'm not ready to take on. Back at home I made a chest plate and summoned the Eye of Cthulhu to try my new gun on, as well as to make up for me dying so many times. The Eye of Cthulhu is a fairly simple battle. He has 2 horns, but I knew what to expect. It wasn't much of a challenge thanks to the new gun I had. Using the Crimtane bow he drops, I made a blood butcher, an upgrade to my sword which dealt 24 damage instead of the 9 my cactus sword deals. Day 5. I expanded the shack. Now we have room for 3 NPCs to move in. Once the conditions are met, of course. I headed back to the elevator and continued making progress on it. It's a large world, so it's gonna take quite a while. I found a ferry which I didn't know existed, and it led me to a chest. The chest had a horseshoe inside of it. The horseshoe makes it so I don't take any fall damage, so that's pretty useful while going down the elevator. While exploring, I found a gravity potion. This potion is useful for finding Sky Island and obtaining some really good weapons and accessories. From a trapped chest, I got a band of regeneration, which makes it so I can now slowly regen health without the need of a campfire or a potion. Back at home, I saw a new background. It had new lanterns I had never seen before, also the arms theater moved in. I made a better pickaxe and leggings. Using the gravity potion, I flew into the night sky looking for Sky Islands. I found one above the shack, very far above. It had a red balloon which allows me to jump higher, just like the frog leg does, so I can just equip one or the other. In the second island, I found wings. Before, it was impossible to get wings before hard mode, but I guess you can now. The wings made the horseshoe useless, since wings allow you to fly and negate all fall damage. Day 6, I decorated the shack and continued working on the elevator. I mined and stored everything I could collect into the piggy bank, and once I went back home, I continued working on the shack and made a proper helmet. The bucket really wasn't doing much. At night, I decided to kill 2 eyes of Cthulhu since I had suspicion looking nice, which allowed me to summon them. After the battle, I ended up having 46 crimtane bars and upgrading my bow, and made an emerald staff, as well as a hook. Hooks are incredibly useful for mobility, just as useful as wings. Now I just need boots and I'll be completely set. At the morning of day 7, a goblin army attacked, but I was well prepared with the new weapons I had just made. Feeling confident and ready for anything, I decided to take on a new boss. In the Crimson biome, I built an arena. It was time for the Brain of Cthulhu. I had a rough start since I got stuck in the wood I placed so enemies couldn't get through. I thought I was dead for sure, but managed to slip out somehow. The rest of the fight went better and I defeated the Brain. I got a Bone Rattle, an item which allows me to summon a pet. They don't really fight, they're just for aesthetic. I got a baby face monster and decided to name him Johnny. Right away I made a better pickaxe, as well as a better chestplate. With my crimtane pickaxe, I went back to my hellhole. And finally on day 7, I reached hell. I destroyed bases and received a bunch of stronger loot, better healing potions, and hell arrow. I also found a bunch of shadow chests, but I can't open them just yet. We'll come back to these on a different day. I didn't mine hellstone yet, even though I was capable of. Mining them creates lava, and I wanted an obsidian potion so I could be able to swim in lava. I explored hell well into day 8. A merchant arrived. I'm not sure how, but he died. I just kept his hat. I changed my furnace for a hell furnace. I continued exploration to the right side of my world. This time I went much further now that I had better gear and better mobility. Except for boots, I could really use some boots. I finally arrived at the temple and looked for the water bolt. A powerful book you can obtain very early on if you're lucky enough. The book spawns somewhere around the temple and sometimes can be found in the entrance. I couldn't find it there and couldn't look much further, since if I did, I would be instantly killed by the guardian. To enter the temple, I need to free this old man from his curse, so I got to building an arena. Arenas are very important for battles in Terraria, as you will come to learn. You basically need to build one for every new boss you spawn in a specific location. I spent the night building an arena to fight Skeletron in. I continued building until day 9. Once I finished the arena, I decided to continue exploring. I found a living tree, a massive tree that holds 2 wands, one for leaves and one for wood. These wands were gonna help me with my plans on building a base. Unfortunately, this living tree didn't have any wands. I was upset since that was the only way I knew you could get them, so it's time to completely rethink my future base. The reason there wasn't any wands though, because there was a sword shrine. I found an enchanted sword, a strong sword you might find around the world, and it is useful, as most early swords don't have auto swing, but this one does. I continued exploring into the ocean and found a floaty. And now, we just got for waiting until nighttime. While waiting, I found this cool fish, so full of confidence. I moved him so he would be safe in my fight with Skeletron. Finally, it was time. First, I aimed for the hands, as destroying his hands first is useful for taking on his head. With the help of Johnny, I killed Skeletron. Right away, I began exploring the dungeon. I found the water bowl and continued deep into the dungeon. To open any dungeon chest, you need to get a key first. I got a few keys and opened a few chests, but I wasn't too concerned with them. I was mainly here for the water bowl. I rescued the mechanic, an NPC that sells the redstone equivalent of Terraria, which is just wires and tools for placing and or destroying wires. I stole a bewitching table, which allows me to summon one more extra minion. I didn't have any yet though, since Johnny isn't a minion. Late night, I headed back home. It was thundering, so I stayed inside. Day 10, I bought a safe from the merchant, which is just like a piggy bank. I practically have 3 inventories now. I also began work on a basement to expand the shack and have more NPCs move in while I think of a new plan for a main base. Since my other idea was ruined by not being able to get a wood or a leaf wand, I spent the rest of day 10 working on the basement. I continued working on the basement until day 11, where I finished shortly after. Now the shack has room for 6 more NPCs to move in. I found a meteor in the desert by the house, and threw some bombs to mine it. Unfortunately, normal bombs didn't seem to work, but TNT did. While mining, I was attacked by a bunch of meteor heads, but I still mined enough meteorite. I returned to the jungle to explore. I was better geared, so there wouldn't be so much of a challenge. In the jungle, you usually find stronger enemies, but also way better loot. Right away, I stumbled upon a giant beehive, where you can find honey, which regenerates life when you swim in it, and where you can find a queen bee spawn. I built a small platform and fought queen bee. The water bolt helped tremendously as the projectile bounces, and in such a small area, queen bee took a lot of damage. I got the beekeeper, a sword that summons bees, and goggles. And by day 12, I was already up to 400 health. Eventually, I reached hell, and decided I had explored enough. A furry lady NPC moved in. I had never met her before, so I checked what she sold. She made it so animals could move into the shack, and I was really excited about this. A cat named Brew moved in, and you could pet them. With the meteorite, I made a meteor axe, which basically acts as a hammer as well. I also made meteor leggings and helmet. I bought a familiar outfit to be able to hide my armor, and threw the rest of the stuff I got while exploring into chests. Chests? I began chopping down trees outside the shack to make room for the main base. I obtained wands while exploring the jungle, but they were the wrong type. On day 13, the Goblin Tinkerer moved in. I bought the Tinkerer workshop and was now able to combine a few trinkets. Not all accessories can be combined together, some require specific combinations. I discovered you can obtain the wand I was looking for after all. All it takes is to shake a tree, a new feature that was added recently. I went around the world shaking trees with no luck. I reached all the way to the beach and continued working on the beach house while I was there. I ended the day with some good old fishing. I spent all of day 14 trying to get the leaf and the wood wand. On day 15, I added a second floor to the tree farm. Returning to the shack, I decided to add an extra area for plants. We were gonna need them for potions later on, and I decided it would be a good chance to add nature to the shack. I used TNT to collect and flatten the desert a bit. I added a small waterfall to the side of the house. I continued working on the green room up until day 16. Since I had been working at home for a while now, I decided to head to hell, where I mined hellstone using an obsidian skin potion I found. Back at the shack, I made a fiery greatsword, a molten pickaxe, and complete molten armor. We now have the necessary equipment to fight the wall of flesh and enter hard mode. I added clouds to the green room and it started thundering. On day 17, I head to the jungle to see if I could find boots. I was tired of walking around so slowly. My new pickaxe made mining a lot easier. After searching in the jungle for a while, I had far too much junk. I returned back home to store everything and increase my maximum amount of mana. The shack is full of chests everywhere with junk. I really need to start working on the main base soon. But for now, I went back to looking for boots. Remember that mushroom biome I mentioned over 10 days ago? I found running boots inside a chest there. And then another pair of boots. At least I can run now. I combined my boots with rocket boots and now I have rocket running boots. I shake trees in the tree farm. Didn't chop them though. You can keep shaking them without having to replant them. I also headed to the dungeon where I got an alchemy station. Alchemy stations are useful since there's a chance you won't use up any materials while making a potion. From the dungeon, I also got a shadow key. Now we can open shadow chests from hell. And that's exactly what we did on day 18, where we went back to hell to gather some loot from shadow chests. Unfortunately, all my weapons made from hellstone were a lot better. I head back home and drank a potion that teleports me anywhere. It teleported me to a mushroom biome with running boots. You're joking. I also began building an arena for the Wall of Flesh. It's basically a long bridge. The Wall of Flesh appears at the end of the world, and depending on where you're facing, will chase you to all the way to the other end. It's good to have extra room for being chased around. I continued working on the bridge, but before I fought the wall, I decided to head back home. I did some more fishing to have more crates. I could then open them in hard mode to get hard mode ores. At night, I decided to finish and decorate the beach house a bit more. And so I did, until I ran out of palm wood and didn't bother finishing the rest. It's a house for the angler, so it has no importance. I continued fishing all the way until day 20. After fishing for about half a day in day 20, I decided it was finally time to go beat the Wall of Flesh. I worked on the bridge and threw a voodoo doll into lava. This kills the guide and immediately spawns the wall of flesh. Once the wall of flesh is defeated, we enter hard mode, where enemies become a lot stronger, we fight new bosses, collect new ore, and deal with new events. Then I killed the wall of flesh again. Early in day 21, we got very lucky. An enemy dropped the beam sword, a sword that deals 61 melee damage and shoots a beam of light. Basically an upgraded version of my enchanted sword. We also rescued a wizard NPC. I mined a bit of palladium and found a spider area. I tried to kill enough to get spider fangs and to make a spider summon, but I was overwhelmed and died. Back at home, we made a palladium pickaxe. I headed to the tree farm to shake some trees. Still no luck getting any wands. I decided the main base couldn't wait any longer. I began planning the main base using wood. On day 22, I head to the tree farm and found a wood wand. I finally got in one. With the tree wand, I worked on the green room in the shack. I wanted giant trees to be a part of it. I also made a Capricorn mask. I found it to be very pretty. Back at the main base, I made an entrance most enemies wouldn't be able to go through using wires and some actuators. Actuators allow you to activate and deactivate blocks, allowing you to run through them. I replaced all the wood I used to plan the base with living wood and then placed the background. I head back into the elevator where I cleared an area for farming underground enemies. With hard mode, you get harder enemies, as the name might imply, and I was going to need way better gear if I wanted to deal with them. I began farming light creatures to get their souls. The spiders that overwhelmed me last time are nothing compared to my new sword and bow. I got enough fangs to make a spider minion summon. Back at home, I bought a long flamingo from the merchant. I placed a flamingo in front of my new base. He will bring us luck and he will protect us. Checking on the tree farm to see if I can find the leaf one, but still no luck. I'm going to continue checking on the tree farm daily, but I won't mention it unless something important happens. Back at the main base, I made a key of light. A key that once you place in a chest, causes that chest to become a mimic. Mimics are incredibly strong and fast. They also tank a lot of damage, but they usually drop really good loot. And that loot is really useful for the start of hard mode. We can also get some really useful gear for fighting some hard mode bosses. Once we defeated the mimic, he dropped a weapon I don't really use, but it's fine, we can always kill more. But for now, we worked on the house maintenance. I finished both doors, and I worked on the main base well into day 24. Now that I worked on the main base, I feel like it's the right time to reveal what I've been building. I wanted to build a giant treehouse, something I had done in a previous world, but never actually finished, because of how massive it had been. But now I'm tasking myself to finish one within 100 days. I'm sure that'll go well. The issue is going to be making the treehouse look decorated and feel cozy, but that's an issue for another day. For now, my main focus was on storage. The shack had become too full of all my junk and I needed somewhere to place all my loot from adventures. On day 25, the treehouse started looking a lot better, but I didn't want to focus on one thing for too long. So I built a well for the elevator. While killing light creatures for their souls, an enemy dropped a bow, which did double the damage my current one does. I also expanded the underground arena while I was down there. On day 26, I head back to the treehouse and got to killing mimics. This time, one of the mimics dropped a bow, which causes arrows to rain from the sky. One of the most useful weapons in my opinion, as it can help against some hard mode bosses. I also planted some pumpkin seeds I got from the druid to make some pumpkin pie. Early in day 27, I died to a bat while expanding the arena. I decided to spread the hollow above ground since I hadn't actually seen much of it. Not to mention, the hollow biome is also really beautiful. I cleared some area in the desert we have by the treehouse and in the area in front of the treehouse, and planted some pearl stone blocks. Once I placed the pearl stone blocks, the hollow would basically begin to spread. At the tree farm, we finally got what we were looking for, a leaf wand. Because I had yet to build an arena near the shack or treehouse, I began to collect marble. Of course, I used bombs to mine everything. On the rainy night of day 27, I began working on the arena. I had an idea how I wanted it to look and a feature I wanted to add to make it both useful and aesthetically pleasing. On day 28, I continued working on the arena and getting attacked by unicorns. Unicorns drop their horns, and with those horns, I can make holy arrows. The best arrows in Terraria, since they summon falling stars to deal extra damage. Once I ran out of marble, I head back to the treehouse and began making progress on it. I began placing leaves and vines, as well as working on one of the branches, and got more marble for the arena. On the start of day 29, I began to work on making the arena more useful, by making blocks become active or inactive with the use of actuators. I also built a place to place all my banners in. You receive banners for every 50 of a type of enemy you kill. Those banners can be placed to make you deal more damage to those enemies, as well as taking less damage in return. The rest of the day was spent adding platforms to the arena, allowing me to move around and avoid attacks from bosses. Most of day 30 and day 31 were spent organizing and making the trunk of the treehouse look better. On day 32, I continued working on the treehouse. It began taking shape. Since I haven't killed any mechanical bosses yet, I got to killing mimics. With the new arena and the storm bow, it was much easier. I also got a hollowed key which allows me to open a hollowed chest from the temple. But I couldn't do that just yet until I defeated a boss named Plantera. At night there was a blood moon and a text warning the arrival of one of the mechanical bosses. The mechanical worm was here and I was unprepared. I didn't last much and died. During the blood moon, enemies spawn more frequently, zombies can now open doors, and more than normal amounts of enemies can spawn on the screen at the same time. I spent all of day 33 mining. And by day 34, I had mined 41 titanium bars. I upgraded my chestplate and the furnace for the treehouse. Then I upgraded my arrows to Ichor arrows that lower enemy defense and holy arrows that summon stars. I decided today I would kill one of the mechanical bosses, so I spent the day working on the treehouse. At night there was another blood moon, and then I summoned the twins. The twins are mechanical version of the Eye of Cthulhu. They're always connected to one another and they both have two faces. One shoots lasers and the other one basically has a flamethrower. With the use of the bow and the arrows, the fight went fairly well. I defeated the twins and collected the hollowed bars, an upgrade to the 3 hard mode starting ores. With the hollowed bar I made Excalibur, a sword that deals 20 more melee damage than my current one. I placed a beam sword on my wall, just like the previous one. On day 35, I worked on placing leaves for the treehouse. I was having trouble finding a good place for the leaves to reach, since I didn't want the treehouse to be too long, but also not too short. And by nighttime, I had found the perfect length. I needed someone to place all my gold because I was so rich, so I made a treasure room. I then spent the rest of the day adjusting some areas of the treehouse that looked odd. Day 36 and 37 were mostly spent working in the treehouse basement. I also added a teleporter room. On day 37, I finished sketching where the leaves would go and began replacing the dirt with leaves. The treehouse now has a roof. I spent the last few hours of day 37 working on the arena and making a safe room. Some bosses have lasers and those lasers can't go through blocks. If I get overwhelmed, I'll have somewhere to take cover. Early on day 38, it began raining slime. We are now 1-1. I shot Johnny with a slime gun, King Slime Drop, and then terrorized my NPCs with the same slime gun. Of course, I framed it. I then spent the rest of day 38 exploring the underground Crimson biome. On day 39 there was a party. Sometimes NPCs can throw parties randomly, and even the pets get cute small party hats. I made a book called Golden Shower. It shoots piss at enemies and lowers their defenses. I made a mechanical worm to summon the destroyer, the mechanical worm that had destroyed me last time. There is a very simple way to kill this boss, but I'll try not to cheese the fight. While I waited on nighttime to fight the destroyer, I continued working on the treehouse. I added a second layer, I added a second layer to the basement and began placing background in the rest of the treehouse. I didn't get to finish because I wanted to fight the destroyer. The destroyer can't really go far up the ground, so it has little eyes that shoot lasers for it. I was close, but I was still defeated. It didn't help that I forgot my potions. I got back to farming souls and iron, iron. I spent day 40 spreading crimson in the underground arena. And at night, I tried to fight the destroyer again. This time, I ran out of arrows. Oh man. I made holy arrows and got back to farming. On day 41, I did the actual strategy to fight the destroyer. I put a small room where it couldn't reach me and defeated it. It didn't feel much of a victory. But at least I got a mask out of it, and the Solamite. I decided to place the mask in the treasure room where I get the other 2 heads I needed to complete the mechanical trio. So right away I got to fighting the twins. Then I picked up the Souls of Sight this time. On day 42, I got back to working on the treehouse. I have a lot of wall to place and I can't get distracted. Fortunately, there's a smart cursor feature in Terraria and it works very well when placing walls. After running out of walls to place, I fought a few mimics and got a lot of money out of it. Since I haven't gotten an enchanted apple, I bought a horse from the NPC Fox Girl. I also wanted to see how fast they were. On day 43, I finished building the basement to the treehouse and lighted up the arena. I got a bunny to move into the treehouse and I absolutely loved her. I also fought Skeletron Prime, the mechanical version of the dungeon boss, but now he has 4 arms, 2 times as dangerous, and spikes, but he was no match for me and Johnny. I almost forgot the Souls of Fright he dropped. I spent both day 44 and 45 placing walls and collecting wood. Day 46, I added a 3rd branch to the treehouse and finished placing the background. On day 47, I decided to explore the jungle, but before I did any actual exploring, I began building a house for a witch to move in. I kept getting interrupted by enemies, but I dealt with them. I spent all day trying to come up with a unique design. After returning from a trip home, I continued working on the jungle house. It was starting to look better, but I still wasn't happy with a few things. Apparently this house doesn't count as a jungle house, so I had to make a small room. I decided to not buy wings from her because I was fine with my current ones and didn't want to spend half my money. I built a part of a bridge to connect the room with the jungle house, but didn't finish it. I'm sure I'll finish it another day. I found a Plantera bulb. These spawn around the jungle once you defeat the 3 mechanical bosses. The Plantera bulbs spawn a boss named Plantera, so I began working in an arena to fight this plant. On day 49, I continued work on the arena. There was an ore called chlorophyte. I couldn't mine it just yet, so I just let it be. It's not that much, so I'm hoping it won't get in the way. Back at the treehouse, I placed honey in the arena. Honey is incredibly useful to have in any arena since it increases life regeneration while you're in it, and 30 seconds afterwards. I also began connecting the teleported in the treehouse to the jungle house. To connect the teleported, you need enough wires to connect one end from the other. But once you get that done, it is completely worth it. Once I cleared enough room in the arena, I placed a platform. Plantera drops spiky bouncy balls, so I needed a room to avoid them. I summoned Plantera. It was a hard fight and lasted until day 50. Plantera got my health below 100 a few times. The first phase gave me the most trouble. The second phase was a lot easier since Plantera just chased me around, but since I had cleared a lot of room, I had plenty of space to move around and dodge her. Eventually, with enough piss, I won and obtained the key to the jungle temple, which I still hadn't found. I spent the rest of day 50 looking for the temple. I wasn't completely sure of where it was, but because of my experience with this game, I had a few ideas of where it could be. By the end of the day, I returned home to store everything I had collected while looking for the temple. I spent the majority of day 51 looking for the jungle temple, and I managed to find it the same day. I made flasks of Ichor. I made P flask to give my melee weapon the same ability as my golden shower buff. It lowers enemy defense. I fought my way through the enemies of the jungle temple and stole most of the wires that are used for traps in there. It's much more dangerous than the other temple, and it has way tougher enemies. By the end of the day, I managed to reach the end of the temple. Here is where you summon the golem. On day 52 there was a solar eclipse, so I returned home to try and obtain some better gear before the golem fight. A solar eclipse is just like a blood moon, spawning many enemies, but these enemies are horror movie references. They are very strong. You got Halloween references, you got Texas Chainsaw Massacre's Leatherface, vampires, and other well-known horror characters. I spent all day dealing with the solar eclipse and got some pretty useful stuff out of it. One of the things I got was a broken hero sword. Back at the base, I made a true knight's edge, a sword that deals over 100 melee damage and shoots powerful laser beams. On day 53, I head back to the jungle and fought the golem. The golem is a fairly simple fight. You just focus on the arms and then on the body. He also drops good accessories and even a pickaxe. Unfortunately, I died on my first fight with him. Here is what I had an issue. I usually stop recording every 3 or 4 days to make sure I don't lose any footage, but this one time I forgot. I wrote down everything I did, so here are some details. Day 54 and 55 were spent fighting the golem. The True Knight's Edge beam ability combined with the Golden Shower book led to an incredibly easy fight. Not to mention the golem was really easy to beat once I figured him out. I also connected the jungle house teleporter with the tree house. When I was fighting the golem, he dropped the pig saw. I was now able to mine chlorophyte, the block that was getting in the way with the planterophyte, as well as blocks from the temple. I spent all of day 56 mining chlorophyte and accidentally threw a bomb in the treehouse. Fortunately, no major damage was done except for the heart attack I got. I bought a contaminator and spent all my money on ammunition. The contaminator is used to spread or clean hollow or crimson corruption. I then upgraded my armor to turtle armor. I began day 57 by connecting the teleporter from the treehouse to the temple, but I was gonna need a lot more wire. The coal is now there since I defeated the golem, but I wasn't here for them just yet. I also got a wisp in a bottle, which is really cute and acts as light. I spent the rest of day 57 expanding the underground arena and got into a fight with Queen Slime. The fight lasted all the way to day 58. I didn't know Queen Slime was a boss. She's basically the hard mode equivalent King Slime. She breaks a bullet hell of slime, but because I already beat most hard mode bosses and she's one of the starter ones, the fight didn't last too long. Returning home, I realized the thing I was looking for the whole time wasn't dropped by light creatures, but by unicorns. Right away I got an enchanted apple, which allows me to summon a rideable unicorn. One of the fastest, if not the fastest summon in the game. I spent the rest of the day looking for a Martian probe. I couldn't find one until I closed my map and was scared by one. The Martian invasion is much like the Goblin invasion. Aliens come and attack the player. The background also changes to reflect this. I've always been a huge fan of how it looks. The marble arena's lava trap is very useful for this type of situations. On day 59, alien ships began arriving during the Martian invasion. They're pretty much the bosses of the invasion. The Stormbow and the Panic groups help deal with them. I defeated the invasion except for this one fella that was left here alone. He's just stuck in there. The aliens also dropped a sword called Influx Waver. It deals 100 damage and has a stronger beam than my current sword, so I replaced it. I increased the area of grass in the hollow so enemies who need grass can spawn. Using Excalibur and Chlorophyte, I created the True Excalibur. With the True Excalibur and the True Knight's Edge, I created the Terror Blade. An even more powerful sword with an even stronger projectile that can pierce through enemies. I spent all of day 60 and day 61 working on the treehouse. On day 61, it began to rain slime. I defeated King Slime and went back to work on the treehouse. Progress was interrupted by goblins on day 62. It didn't last too long. I head to the jungle to kill the golem a few times as well. I then finished the day by working on the treehouse. On the start of day 63, I built a small house in the Crimson biome. I wanted to try building something that was mostly grey and I thought this was a fine place. I then summoned the solar eclipse. I got a bunch of weapons from it, but nothing better than what I already had. Day 64, I added some widows to the treehouse. I also bought this really cute bunny hat. I thought it was gonna be a bunny ears, but it just straight up being a bunny on my head. And afterwards, I found this really pretty butterfly. I captured it and then let her free. It disappeared. Day 65 was completely spent on the underground arena. And on day 66, I summoned the Eclipse once again. I'm looking for a specific accessory, and I still haven't had any luck finding it. It's a reoccurring theme in this world. I placed a nurse and the druid in the marble arena to help with buffs and healing. I spent all of day 66 looking for life fruit in the jungle. For each life fruit, my max health increases by 5, all the way up to 500. By the time I returned home, I had 480 health. Remember the beautiful butterfly I let go the other day? It apparently summons a new boss. I tried fighting it and did not stand a chance. Good thing I was merciful last time. On day 65, pirates invaded. Good thing since they dropped golden furniture and I could use it to decorate the treehouse. I began working in an arena for the Moonlord. The Moonlord requires a giant sky bridge to make his attacks a lot easier to dodge. Of course, I made it out of marble. Back at the treehouse, I replaced one of the Sky Island branches with mud to make a mushroom bio. It looked ugly, but I needed to have one. On day 69, there was a party. I got a cake from the party girl. It gives me sugar rush. It made me go fast. Too fast. I worked on the treehouse and on the mushroom branch. I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I was having fun. I spent day 69 through 71 working on the treehouse. On day 71, I finally finished the basic layout of the base. I spent all of day 72 focusing on the treehouse, and then upgraded my armor to full beetle armor. On day 73, I bought a cape from the traveling merchant. It makes me look cool and mysterious. I spent the day fighting the solar eclipse, and at night I did a bit of decorating. I continued farming the solar eclipse well into day 74. I was trying to get an accessory, and finally I got it, and I managed to upgrade it to a celestial shell. But at night the real fun starts. The lunatic cultist starts the lunar events, where 4 celestial pillars appear and I need to destroy all 4 of them. Once I do all that, the Moonlord awakens. On day 74, I dealt with the first pillar, the vortex pillar. Enemies that spawn here are usually fast and shoot projectiles. On day 75, I dealt with the next pillar, the solar pillar. Enemies in this pillar are usually more grounded and deal attacks with melee. When I killed the solar pillar, I went back to the treehouse and upgraded my bow to a phantasm bow. It's quite strong and creates magical arrows. This is gonna be the bow I use for the rest of the game. The third pillar I went after was the Stardust pillar. Enemies usually break up into more enemies here. I made a Stardust dragon summon, a dragon to help me fight. Back at the Moonlord arena, I placed campfires, heart lanterns, and honey. These will increase my life regeneration during the fight. I had only beaten the Moonlord once before, so I had to take this seriously. I then beat the final pillar, the Nebula pillar. With all pillars defeated, it meant it was finally time to fight the Moonlord. I died trying to get to arena. And then I reached the arena with 100 health and died right away. I then built a way to get up to the arena. I should have probably done this to begin with. I spent day 76 having to kill the lunatic cultists and the pillars all over again. By the end of the day, I managed to get the Moonlord fight again, with full health this time. The Moonlord is the final boss of Terraria, Cthulhu's younger brother if you will. To beat the Moonlord, you must first deal with his hands and then his head, and then his core becomes exposed. The unicorn and the bull were incredibly helpful in this fight. He chased me around the arena, and I just continued running back and forth. After the fight, I died to fall damage. What a fitting way to go out. We might have beaten the final boss, but there was still much left to do, and still some bosses I missed. I spent day 77 watching the credits and played with the portal gun the Moonlord dropped. The new sword was pretty cool too. I made Stardust wings and now I was incredibly fast. I spent the rest of day 77 looking for an NPC I hadn't found before, the tax collector, which you find in hell by throwing purification powder onto a cursed soul. On day 78, I took a break from looking for the tax collector. I decided to kill the Moon Lord again. The battle went well, except that I fell off the arena. I framed his head. I also upgraded my pickaxe. At the end of the day, I caught a truffle, a fishing item needed to summon Duke Fishron. Early on day 79, I built an arena to fight the Duke, a fish shark demon looking thing that flies around and chases you. He also creates sharknadoes. I had never actually fought the Duke before, but I heard the fight was intense. The battle went fairly well since I already had endgame gear. Back in Hell, I found the cursed soul right away, and turned him into a tax collector. He moved in, and so did the princess NPC. I bought a prince outfit from her because I have no good looking clothes. I spent the day clearing a bit of corruption, and it was pretty satisfying to watch. On day 80, I killed Terraria to get the Seedler, a sword I was going to need if I wanted to craft the Zenith. I still needed other swords, and so I summoned the Pumpkin Moon. An event that comes in waves. Each wave becomes harder and harder. The event usually consists of Halloween themed enemies. The arena's lava trap and Star Wrath, a sword I got from the Moon Lord, helped a lot. I fought scarecrows and mourning woods. Not to be confused with morning woods. They were mourning and hellhounds. Eventually the Pump King himself showed up. I reached all the way up to wave 15 where things got really intense. Once I reached day 81, the Pumpkin Moon ended, and I got the sword I needed from the pumpkin. The next sword I needed was the Star Fury, a downgraded version of the sword I'm currently using. You fight it in Sky Islands, and I had yet to find it on any Sky Island. Fortunately, you can find it in Sky Crates, so it was time for me to start fishing. I kept getting attacked by enemies, but at least I was getting Halloween outfits out of it. I fished for Sky Crates until day 82. Early morning on day 82, I got the Star Fury. The last sword I needed was dropped by the Moon Lord himself, so once again I got to killing the lunatic cultist and the pillars to summon him. By the end of day 82, I killed him, but he didn't drop what I needed. Early day 83, I killed Moon Lord again, I fell off the arena once again, still no luck. Cultists and pillars once more. The Moon Lord was defeated again, and still no sword. I spent day 84, 85, 86, and most of day 87 repeating this process. I suffered. In between the fights, I took a break to connect a teleporter to Hell. I had over 6,000 wires left over, so I probably bought a few extra. I fought Skeletron Prime and got his mask. Now the mechanical trio was completed and I had hung all of them on my treasure room wall. Back to fighting Moon Lord. On day 88, I killed Moon Lord 2 more times, and finally I got it, the Meowmere. Right away, I crafted the Zenith, a sword that deals over 250 melee damage. And who better to try the new sword on than the Moon Lord. This time I fought him in the Marble Arena. My next goal was to try and make the best shoes in the game, and for that I needed an anglet. I hadn't found one before, so I got to fishing once more. I spent day 89 fishing for crates. I spent some time on day 90 still crate fishing, and eventually I got the anglet. I fought the Empress of Light again, this time with the new sword. On day 91 I dealt with a pirate invasion. Killing stuff with my new sword was really fun. All I needed to craft the boots now was an obsidian rose that an imp had a 2% chance to drop. I spent days 91 through 96 farming in hell for imps. Unfortunately, I never got the obsidian rose. On day 96, I decided to focus on other things. There were still some things I could do instead, and I was running out of time. I spoke with the tavern keep to buy a crystal and a stand. With this, I could summon the Old One's army, where I had to defend the crystal from enemies that come in waves. It's a fun event I never actually did much of. The arena for this event is a straight area for enemies to spawn in from a portal. It went well since my sword is incredibly strong, and not even the boss dragon Betsy did much damage to the crystal. Just look at how fast her HP drops. I had this chest in the arena for a few days, but I didn't bring any attention to it. I'll open it soon enough. I spent all of days 97 working on the treehouse for one last time. I bought items from most NPCs and placed them around the treehouse. I also placed gold everywhere. On day 98, I hit back to the jungle. I finally finished the bridge between the room and the jungle house. And because I'm a bit stubborn, I spent a bit of day 98 trying to get an obsidian rose. I never got it. Back at the marble arena, I summoned the frost moon, similar to the pumpkin moon, with waves of enemies attacking me, but this time they were Christmas themed. I reached all the way to wave 19. On day 99, it was finally time to open the chest in the arena. This was it, the final fight with King Slime. I used a copper sword and a wooden bow, and downgraded my armor from 82 armor all the way down to 9. I got on a flamingo and the battle began. It was finally time to settle the score. The war that had begun on day 4 was finally coming to an end. It was an intense battle, but Johnny and the flamingo had my back the whole time. My bow only dealt 4 damage per shot, and King Slime had 2000 health. The battle started at 7:30 AM and ended at 3 PM in game. But once he was finally defeated, everyone celebrated. And finally, day 100. As the spirit of Christmas faded and we'd reached the end of the series, I began celebrating and opened some piñatas. I released 100 lanterns to celebrate the 100 days we spent. I'm surprised at how much I accomplished, a bit proud even. I went from having killed Moonlord only once to killing him over 10 times. At night, the background changed and there were lanterns. It was very fitting. As day 100 came to an end, I put on my mask and released the final lantern. On day 101, I saved and exited. And that's the end of 100 days. I can still do expert mode, so if you guys want to see that, be sure to like and subscribe. I learned a lot I had forgotten and got to experience a lot of new things. I had a lot of fun. I would also like to give a huge thanks to Luke TheNotable, because it was his content and the many clones that showed up that inspired me to, well, copy him myself. But I put my own twist on it, you know? It was Terraria this time. Thanks for watching.